I'll take a few moments to discuss the cocky, ignorant bloke that he used to be, if I may. So thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to be standing here in front of you all today for one very simple reason. And that is that throughout the nature of mine and Nick's friendship is that we have been indeed very competitive. Whether it be in garden football, playing cricket, grades at school, or whoever has the biggest muscles. Which is why it gives me fantastic pleasure to say that Nick has recognised that in fact I am the best man. So I thought I'd talk you through briefly how me and Nick first met, and the conversation intellect probably resonates throughout the next 2 decades. So Terry very graciously hosted a charity football tournament at his acre farm or mansion house in Sunbury-on-Thames, and my father very graciously bought myself and my brother a place for the six-a-side football tournament. So clearly in the late 80s, early 90s, we turned up in our matching blue Diodora football kits, thinking we were too cool for school. And I made a beeline for Nick on account that we were both the younger brothers to our elder siblings. So the conversation went something like this. All right, Nick. All right, Ad. So remember the intellect. What do you call a fart? Don't know. Fart? Wow, what a loser. Everyone knows it's called a guff. And this was the type of conversation for the next 20 odd years. After a short consultation with both our elder siblings, indeed we established for the next 3 or 4 months it was cool to call it a guff. I think I might have left with a nosebleed, and I also left with the roots of a friend for life. Now, like all best friends do, when it comes to relationships, we try and help each other out as much as possible. So as a single 16-year-old boy at Strode's College, where we both went, one of the hottest girls in the year had confided in Nick that she had the hots for me. Nick did the only thing possible that he could do as a best friend, and that was insist that I go out with one of his elder sister's uglier friends. But Nick had foresight, very intelligently, because the elder girl I went out with, she drove a car. Now that meant Nick, being the economist, Pikey, he is, we had free lifts to college for that year, and she picked us up from some of the most hideous night spots in Surrey. So it was all worthwhile, but Nick, thanks for looking after me. Nick on to university, and Nick did the typical lad at university, and that was, and which it seems to be slightly different to your earlier conversations there, because he had a girlfriend throughout the course of university for the 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 years that he was actually there. And like any red-blooded male that looks a bit like Adam Levine when he had all of his hair, slightly bigger nose, maybe a Jewish version. Now what you're thinking is he lived the high life, yeah. Lads, nights out, shots, girls, yeah. No, girlfriend, all the way through, day one, the day he left. So when he did finally graduate, aged 28, or are you still there? Because I'm sure they've still got a spot for you somewhere in a classroom or lecturing or something like that. With £thousands worth of debt, which was clearly well spent on Pizza Express, going out to the cinema, holding hands and bowling with his girlfriend. Now, naturally, when you finished university, being, to together for 8 years, it's only natural to break up with her. So he did. Now, the only thing that this poor girl was capable of doing was moving to Australia, which obviously shows how lucky, in fact, Sophie is. Bournemouth was, however, the setting for the first meeting with Nick and Sophie, where they shared a PR and media studies class, and I think Nick might have been the only male in the universe, in Bournemouth, to study PR and marketing in an entourage of girls. Now, that leads us to, again, something that I think I misheard you on, as to when you plucked up the courage to ask Sophie out that day after seeing your lovely brother and his son together. Well, actually, that's not quite true. Because he had a go about 3 years in advance of that. Now, let's talk a little bit about the London Eye. It's a beautiful setting. I think it was the summer. And Nick had romantically bought a couple of tickets, and I think he bought them, albeit through some way or another. I'm sure they were probably complimentary. He ended up plucking up the courage to invite Sophie out for a date. So they rocked up. I think they might have had a bit of lunch on the South Bank, and eventually went up to the London Eye, swagged it in, tickets. And I was like, oh, you're complimentary. Westminster Bridge, St Paul's, got to the top, and finally it was that moment that Nick had been waiting for the previous 7 or 8 years, whilst he was unfortunately with someone else. And plucked up the courage to ask her out. So he did. Let's just say it was a long way down. No one likes to use the term rock bottom at a wedding, but yeah, I don't think there's anything else. So, after university, middle-aged Nick, single, did go on a bit of a spree of girlfriends. Unfortunately, none of them can be with us today. Parents wouldn't sign the consent form. They were all a year or 2 younger. About that. So, after university, Nick joined the real world and landed a job at News International. Nick, who came out of university, wouldn't say boo to a goose, joined the most aggressive media companies in the world. He had never witnessed so many swear words, personal assaults, defamation, lies, deception, not even after listening to all the voicemails. It came in very handy making social arrangements, however, as Nick knew where to meet for a beer, even if we didn't invite him. So Nick progressed from News International and did quite naturally what a Jewish-looking football Tottenham Hotspur fan would do, and that is join the marketing company of Arsenal. And that worked really well for him for both weeks. So Nick moved on to the BBC. Now, I've never received a call from someone in such an excited state. He talked to me about, he said, Ad, I've I've got great news. I'm now working at the BBC. There's only 3 things I can do that get me fired. Okay, mate, that sounds great. Number 1, taking drugs. And that was never anything that we'd genuinely been interested in, so his career was looking strong. Number 2, not owning a TV licence. Now, chances were looking slightly less promising on the basis that Nick has been known to have a cobweb or 2 in his wallet, but I thought even he can afford that, and maybe they might not run the checks that soon, so we were still in play. Lastly, the one that he was most proud of, was the only other way to get fired from the BBC was being caught having sex on BBC property. I felt his chances slightly increased in light of a number of hot guys in the BBC offices throughout his interview process. You did allude to it slightly earlier, Nick, about your homosexual tendencies. Whether it be the way he sits with his legs so tightly crossed, no one genuinely knows where his manhood figures. Or his quite strange love for the OC, Made in Chelsea, or a Jim Carrey classic, which only some of you Lisbon Lions will know about, Lemony Snicket, a series of unfortunate events. If anyone wants to pick that one up with me later at the bar, I'll be very willing to disclose a bit more. Anyway, so I'm sure all of which have been used previously in Nick's courting. So, with all things considered, and these tendencies that reside within Nick, having got a job at the BBC in the centre of London, it was only natural to move to Brighton, the gay capital of the world. And so he did. We gave him a second chance though. We thought, nah, not our mate Nick. Couldn't be. Got a lovely girlfriend now, fiancée now, wife. Wife? So myself and my girlfriend Charlotte went for the weekend, and after a few bottles of wine in the local tapas, Nick confirmed a booth for us in the local karaoke bar. However, George Michael was his tipple. I've not quite seen Nick's enthusiasm to sing and dance show so few boundaries at that moment. So, we moved on to the Stag Do, and the Lisbon Lions took to Lisbon, and it was meant to be a dirty dozen, the other 13, but unfortunately we had a casualty en route. Unfortunately, Winston was unable to travel. So a dozen of us did take off and got there. Although 12 of us went, only 10 of us made it out for the Saturday night, and we had a few casualties and a few of the lads. We had 3-man lifts, we had an honesty session, we had football on the beach. Football on the beach, actually, congratulations to Rise. Rise, MOS, found the match, 2 goals, 3 assists. Probably couldn't have helped without him, couldn't have made it without him. It was a bit strange, as we didn't see much of Nick. Halfway through the Stag Do, Nick packed himself. So when he put on his Jamaican bobsleigh team onesie, we wondered if he got on the wrong plane. What I'd like to say is that he was fully fledged as a Jamaican, if you know what I mean. So we didn't see much of Nick, on account that we found a bar on the first night called the Tool Shed. and it seemed to suit his taste. He mentioned it was just like Brighton. And we honoured over the sounds of the village people in Nick's great dancing style. So I've created a quick shortlist on what a best man or best friend really knows, which I thought I'd share with you. And he slept for the first 20 years in a single bed with his girlfriends. If they ever stayed over, which would be rare, he would use dividing pillows. Gay in the slightest. He leaves his urine in the toilet for quite an uncomfortable length of time. And he returned from America one year and went on a vegetarian thing for a number of months to try and balance off the number of hot dogs he consumed. Now, he also got fired from the Odeon Cinema for telling the directors how to run the company. He wasn't working in marketing, he was serving popcorn. Now, what is completely strange about Nick is, despite my earlier claims of his homosexual nature, Nick's allergic to nuts. Which he nearly found out the hard way after staying at my flat. When I put almond milk in his tea. So, Sophie, what an absolute catch. You're very, very lucky. Almost as lucky as Jeremy Kyle. But in all seriousness, Nick, he has been a true friend to me now for over 2 decades. If I ever needed someone to talk to or a place to stay, he would be my first call. We would top and tail. Fortunately for Sophie, in some of our late night debates, we'd frequently get down to the real life questions and play snog, marry, avoid. And I can now safely say that Nick was true to his word. We've laughed together, we've argued a lot together, we've cried together, we've debated furiously together. But what is unique about our relationship is that whatever the outcome, however strong the opinion, we dust off our shoulders and are able to talk casually about the football, cricket, or mock his weird obsession with doing up his white-collared buttons all the way to the top without a necktie. This calibre is inherent in the Rogers family, and from what I've seen over a few cocktails with the Brickleys at Terry's recent birthday celebrations, we pushed a few cars out the mud and consumed more vodka with Sophie's mum than what can legally be taken outside the EU. Families do have great synergies. Sophie and Nick, I have every confidence that you'll lead the most incredible lives together. And from first glances over the table at university, to the moment in Paris, to the moment at the top of the Eiffel Tower, top of the London Eye, to this day, to that moment in Paris, where your lives changed forever, and now for the eternal future. You will be forever grateful for each other. Nick, now you've managed to lock this one down, I just hope you might now stop posting so many cringy moments on various social media. I'd like to now hand over to the other best man, Andrew Rogers.